Hello, my name is Hugo Paredes, and today I'll be doing a business report presentation focusing on Mexican culture and how it affects its business communication. Now, the number one thing we have to focus on is cross-cultural communication. As we all know, the United States is expanding into foreign markets, and assuming that every other country conducts business the same way we do, it's a little bit insensitive and the easy way to failure. So, what do we have to do? We have to understand and gain knowledge in other cultures. Culture affects communication overall, but it can also affect business communication. Why? It leads to different attitudes, values, morals, norms, and beliefs. And it all can also affect how an individual interacts with the outside world. So remember, when doing business communication, having a lack of knowledge in other cultures could be the factor that leads to a successful expansion or a failure. Now, when I did this report, I looked at different cultural dimensions. What are those cultural dimensions that I looked at? Number one, I looked at individualism versus collectivism. I looked at explicit rule versus implicit rule. I looked at uncertainty as accepting cultures versus uncertainty as rejecting cultures. Time orientation. I looked at short-term versus long-term orientation. Direct versus indirect. I looked at materialism versus relationship. And lastly, low power versus high power distance. Now, let's look at the country that I did research on. Let's look at Mexico. So, Mexico is rich and proud of its culture, customs, and traditions. It is the second major exporter into the United States. They export agricultural products, natural gases, metals, wood, machinery, engines, amongst other products that support our economy. Mexico also has a vast history of fighting foreign invasions. This influences how their people act and think, and their values and behaviors while doing business. They don't easily trust outsiders. However, they have world-class industrial skills as well as supply chain. Now, a lot of their businessmen and high governors have a United States education, and their business style is very similar to the American way. However, you don't want to assume that that's the case. They want to be treated uniquely. Lastly, it is very easy to conduct business in Mexico. All they're looking for is a long-lasting partner. Now, when you think about Mexico, you think about business alliances and not transactions. Why? Because what they want for their business is they want to be considered first-class partners. They offer the best, and they also want the best standards possible. For them, trust is very important. It is based on the relationship that is built through negotiation over time. Relationships is one of the most important things that I found out about Mexico. It's like their number one thing that they focus on. They want to establish a personal bond. Relationships are paramount to them. What they're looking for is good fellowship on business alliances. And not just a business deal, an agreement, or a transaction. They want to make it personal. And those companies that really focus on branding may suffer from this aspect of the culture. It could be challenging to them. Now, they are very short-term focused. Why? Because they want to establish a bond. So that means that they can oppose remote advantages. They want to see the results short-term, like right now, then wait to see if the results are going to be good, even if they sound promising. Why? Because of their awareness of the future. As I mentioned, they have had a history of expansion, so they don't really trust easily. The last thing is the time orientation. Time and agenda are flexible in their schedules. Punctuality is key whenever you go on a business and government appointments, but if you're going to social events, know that they can arrive 30 minutes to an hour late. And the last thing is patience is key when you're doing business with them, because business meetings tend to take a little bit longer than the USA to make a decision. And that's because sometimes they like to prolong those conversations, even during their famous business dinners, which is an opportunity for us to be able to have those conversations and create fellowship with them, which is something they love. As I look at their business environment, I think about what is important to them. To them is hierarchy. Status and positions matters to them, and their leadership is based on status and seniority. They also are a very high context culture. What does that mean? So networks have grown over years of communication and interactions. and there's a collective understanding of expectations and what their roles are. They value fewer yet deeper relationships with deeper bonds. There may be no agendas, but like I said, everybody knows their role, and when they're gathered, everybody feels comfortable doing business better face to face, person to person, and possibly over drawn out dinners. Now, they're a very collectivism group of individuals. They want to work together and achieve more. They genuinely care about each other, whether they're old or new alliances, that they view them as family, and this is a big aspect for them. They don't trust easily, but once they begin to trust you, they see you as family. They do not accept new business unless they're suggested by their networks. That is key to them. Also, they're very heavily on uncertainty avoidance, which is extremely high in Mexico. They create strict rules, laws, and regulations. As a result, the innovation may be resisted because of the insecure security is very important component in their lives. Lastly, communication, clear expectations when doing business with them from the beginning. Embrace their culture because it allows and shows you that you care for them. They're looking for a personal relationship, not a business transaction. So be patient with them when you conduct business. More than anything, know that they can prolong the decision. Lastly, Mr. Henry Irwin said it best. Business should never be segregated from culture. Understanding that diversity in the business continues to grow, and we have to know that culture is a big and an important part of our lives. Understanding different cultures allows for better communication, different attitudes, values, norms, and beliefs.